day, and that's been really exciting for the learners that have been here, so welcome.
I'm Rachel Summy-Leonard. I'm the official clicker here at Middle High School. I also am one of the assistant principals here, and it's been, just like Ms. Baker said, it's been an amazing couple of days with the kids already. It's nice to have kids in the building, and they seem to be all doing well, and we've had several kids want to come an extra week, so yeah, so we're excited to have all of you new parents, and hopefully you guys will be nice and calm, cool, and collected as well. But I think you'll have a lot of questions that we'll be able to answer and hopefully put your mind at ease, okay?
Yeah, I'm Trisha Layfield. I'm one of the district coordinators for special ed, so I work with all of the kids in the upper grades for referrals and any special ed needs or anything like that. So.
I'm Ruben. I'm the superintendent of the school district, and I see some familiar faces that I see at the elementary school. I'm glad to have you coming up this way. My office is right around the corner, so you'll see me a lot anyway.
I'm Anne-Marie Oshiak. I am the assistant principal of curriculum and instruction. I've seen some of your children at camp. I taught here for the past 6 years, so this is kind of a new role for me, and I'm really excited to step into it and excited to get to know all of you. So welcome.
Our teachers will be here for the 6th grade barbecue, which is happening in August. So we'll be able to introduce you to most of the teachers that typically come to that event, and you'll be able to put faces to names and talk more with them as well. This room that we're in tonight is called the STEM Workshop. It's one of our STEM classrooms. While there's construction going on in the building, it's also serving as our temporary main office, our summer school hub, other meeting spaces like this. So it's kind of all over the place. I appreciate people sitting in weird chairs. This is not the most ideal setup. We usually like something a little different, but we're fortunate to have a lot of construction happening in the building that's helping to improve our air quality. We have new flooring going into some spaces that we're really excited about. So it's going to pay off, but in the meantime, unfortunately, we're kind of stuck to this part of the building. If we do have some sort of an emergency, obviously the closest exit would be that way, so feel free to head right out that way should the need arise. With that said, we'll kind of jump right in. We're going to go through some slides, but leave tons of time at the end for any questions that families may have. Okay, so the bulk of tonight we hope will be questions. The first thing that we like to always talk about with families a little bit to prepare them is just really thinking about middle school and how different it's going to be from elementary school. Elementary school is very nurturing, very close. There's usually one teacher that sticks with the same group of learners throughout the course of the year. The friend groups tend to be very consistent. Middle school, basically all of that's going to likely change. Your child will probably have new friends starting to develop as they merge with the other town and they start to interact with other kids more regularly. You'll notice that all of a sudden, your child who loved this for their entire life, all of a sudden says they hate that and they love this instead. That can be really jarring for families. Sometimes we have behavior patterns that completely rework themselves. So all of a sudden, when your child is in 7th grade, they've never had any difficulties with anything, and suddenly they misbehave in a classroom. Or they're part of a group that makes a really bad decision about something, and we have to kind of work together to address that. Completely normal, happens all the time, but it can be jarring, especially for first-time middle school families. Sometimes academic interests with learners will change. Your learner who is really into reading, for example, might stay into reading but become much more emphasizing in arts or love STEM or something like that. Peer conflicts, we see usually this uptick around 7th grade. It kind of rises up, and it takes some families by surprise. And then once they pass 7th grade and start at 8th grade, we usually are able to successfully kind of bring that back down and they sort of coast back into high school. But that middle of the middle grades, definitely we usually see a bump with some of that stuff. Sometimes we see a little bit of dishonesty starting to happen when it hasn't ever really happened before. So a lot of times we'll have conversations with families and say, you know, a family will call and say, my child brought home their report card and I'm really shocked. They said they were doing so well in X class. What's going on? And what a lot of middle level learners start to kind of figure out is that the communication is so different with home and school that they can get away sometimes with one message here and one message at home and kind of keep us guessing. So we find that in the middle grades in particular, maintaining that school and parent communication really, really important. Information often slows down from your child. Don't be surprised if sometime in the middle grades you start getting the, what happened at school today? I don't know. That becomes a lot more common. It might already have started. Definitely by the time you get through like half of middle school, it happens a lot more often. 8th grade, forget about it. You probably won't hear it.
Yeah, none of the kids that you're here, you're not hearing anything.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But I want to emphasize, Nurturing is still important in the middle school. A middle school is different from a junior high school because a junior high school is just classes and then it's literally a little mini high school. Middle school, we really focus on that nurturing and continuing that relationship with parents. It's really, really important for our learners. It's important that we have community continuing for them in the building, so they'll share a common set of teachers, they'll spend a lot of time together as groups, but it's also really important that we remain involved with you and vice versa. That's critical in the middle grades. I think it's critical in the high school too, but especially in the middle grades, we really want to emphasize that we want to be your partner and keep helping your child to develop and grow.
Oh, and Mr. Dustin, don't forget that we have a really great PTSA, Parent Teacher Student Association.
What a great plug. We do, yes. We have a vibrant Parent-Teacher-Student Association. So if you are part of the JGS parent group or the RMS parent group, or even if you weren't, we would love to have more parents get involved with that. And involvement with the PTSA can be coming to meetings and helping with ideas and volunteering once in a while. It can be helping to run events. You can run for leadership posts. But again, the more we build that community connection with parents and guardians and the school, the more it benefits all of our children. So, great work. We have lots of resources for any questions or needs you may have during the school year as parents or guardians. Your teacher is your first kind of best place to go in middle school. Just like in the elementary school, your child's teachers are going to know them the best. They're going to know what's going on in the classroom. If you call some other resource for these things, we might be able to help you, but more likely than not, we'll either go to the teacher and ask some questions, or we'll ask you to sort of start here. That isn't because we don't want to help you in some of these other areas, but the teacher is the expert on your child, and we really want to get any support or questions answered as quickly as possible. So if you ever have a concern or a question about something in a classroom, in the middle school, we want you to talk to teachers and vice versa. Give them a call, send them an email, they're happy to help. Any weird class stuff that might pop up, again, some of those behavior changes start to happen and we might have weird things that come up and you want to know more, just give the teacher a call. Questions about classwork, grades, those are all great teacher sort of resource points. And our teachers are here, they're ready, they're more than willing to kind of have that conversation. We have a wonderful school counseling team, which we'll talk about a little further on tonight. And again, if you have concerns that are more broad, if you're noticing that your child seems to be really having some difficulty in multiple classes and you're not really sure why, great resource to call our school counseling team and talk to your child's school counselor. They can help bridge some of those pieces. Any social concerns, peer conflicts, great resource to kind of go to the school counseling team. And of course, your friendly building administrators, helpful for all of those things. We can also help with anything else as well, but again, these are kind of your best first points of contact in the middle school. In the middle school, we try to communicate in as many different ways as we possibly can. We have a website that I just spent a bunch of time overhauling and adding some more tabs and information. We're always open to feedback, but we try to keep that up to date, user-friendly. So that's a great place. If you have questions, you're looking for the calendar, when school starts, any of that stuff, the website's a great resource. We send home, now that we're one school, by the way, this is the first Conant Middle School class ever to exist, which is exciting. We have a monthly newsletter called the Conant Connection that will go out sometime around the middle of the month. We'll pack that with stories about what's going on with students, things in the school. We like to pack that as much with student information as we can, but we also will always include other info there. Every Monday, Miss Estes, who's one of our administrative assistants, sends out a weekly notes. She calls it her weekly connection. Again, packed full of things happening for that week, community opportunities, all sorts of stuff. We heavily emphasize the use of email in the middle and high school. We just have a lot, 640 some odd learners at this point. Too much for us to use most other types of communication for any kind of mass communication that goes out. So definitely we would encourage to keep checking your email and kind of keep up on that. Most of our middle school, all three of our middle school grade levels have a newsletter. That's usually full for the 6th grade team, for example. They'll get information on what they're doing for the week, what's happening in their unified arts classes, any special events, all that stuff. We use 2 platforms for parent information about how your learner is doing. The general kind of information system is called Alma, and if you haven't already gotten lots of emails from Leslie McLean about using Alma, you probably will in the very near future. But this is where you can see attendance, quarter grades, things like that, all gets put in Alma. Otis is our much more important tool. We use Otis, which is a learning management system, so you can see everything about your child's progress in all of their classes. You'll see what learning goals have been covered, what assignments the teacher has given. If there's something missing, you'll be able to see that and kind of support your child getting back on track, their assessment scores in real time. All of that's right in Otis. And then phone calls are kind of our last big one. We encourage that, especially if there's a more pressing need to kind of connect. We'll typically call individual families with phones. We often get a lot of questions about what it looks like in the middle school. So 7:10, much earlier. What time was JGS RMS? 8:20?
I think.
So yeah, about an hour and 10 minutes or so earlier, you gotta start coming in the building here. We would like all learners to be kind of in the school by 7:20. If you wanna get school breakfast, closer to that 7:10 time frame is probably better. Our first period starts at 7:25, so it's really early. And again, we'll send all this information out, but for tonight, so you can kind of capture it, very early start to the day. The classes in the middle school are 42 minutes long, and then in between the classes, depending on whether it's also lines up with an end of a high school block, it could be 3 minutes to pass between classes. Most of the time it's 2 minutes. That doesn't sound like a lot of time, but the 6th grade is very contained. The hallway right above us has all of the 6th grade classrooms kind of in a little cluster up here. So it's not super far. The hardest 2-minute passing is if you happen to have music with the ensemble room, which is the other side of the building. We always give learners a little bit of grace, obviously, with that, but 2 minutes is typically the time. And by the way, nobody stands at doors and hits sticks on their wrists and says, get moving to class. We understand. But just so you know, it's a pretty quick-paced day. We have lunch, obviously, and recess, which is nice. Our playground got a little bit of TLC 2 years ago now. It has 9 squares, some 4-square courts, tether balls. There's some things obviously for the learners to do. The combined lunch and recess is 25 minutes. One of the most common phone calls I get early in the year is, my child came home and said they don't have enough time to eat lunch. So I want to tell you right now that your child can have the whole 25 minutes to eat lunch if they need it. What most often happens is that learners will scarf down their food really quickly because they want to get out to recess, or they'll throw it in the garbage. We spend a lot of time with 6th graders really setting an expectation. Okay, you need to finish lunch. Nobody's going to go out for at least half the time. It's really more excitement that causes them to not eat, and we have to do a lot of reminding. But your child can have the whole 25 minutes if they want to take a little bit of extra time to eat. Just want to put that out there. Lunch is always by grade level. Again, building some community, making sure we can share some of those common times together with 6th grade. Every learner in our building is assigned to a homeroom kind of mentoring teacher, which happens for 20 minutes during the day. This is a community building time. They can play games together, get to know each other. If there's some common concern that all the 6th grade teachers are noticing, they might address that in those smaller mentoring groups. This person's also another great contact for you as a parent. And then our day ends at 2:14 for the middle school. So we start a little earlier, but we also end a little earlier, which is nice. Our 5 kind of main community things we focus on. Number 1 is always safe. We spend a lot of time in the middle school and the high school kind of talking about safety, reminding learners, if you see something, say something, those types of things. We practice a lot. We did 5 lockdown drills last year, each of them with a slightly different focus. Not that we want to do that, but the more prepared we have learners and staff to kind of be automatic, the more we can always make sure safety is assured. We do lots of fire evac drills. So safety is always number 1 for us. Respectful, responsible, we really emphasize the importance of growth. I have never worked a day in my life at a job where somebody expects me to be perfect on day 1. It's always about growth, and we kind of emphasize that with our learners. And we focus on a community expectation that we are collaborative. Collaborative in our learning, collaborative in taking care of our space, that we kind of form a community with that. This always gets asked, so I figured I'd just put it in there. Just like elementary school, we don't allow cell phones in the middle school, and in the high school they're heavily kind of pulled back. Cell phones are a major disruptor to our world, and in some ways it's good. We've found that in educational ways it's really not good. In the middle level with cell phones, they foment a lot of social media issues. They're very disruptive to learning. It's just not the right place to have those kind of out and about. So the question that usually follows that is, if I need to reach my child, can I do that? Absolutely. We have main office phones. Every classroom has phones, so we can get in touch with your child if we need to during the school day. Okay, we're going to just briefly overview teaching and learning, and then again, this will be a much deeper topic at a future forum. At the middle school, we emphasize kind of 3 structures to help with learning. We have our core academic classes. That's a good chunk of the day. Every learner has unified arts classes that integrate that learning and bring into it things like technology, art, things like that into their learning process. And then we really emphasize community building and through the mentoring and support programs, developing a sense of what it means to be a member of this community, so that in turn our learners become really good members of the broader community as they get older. Every grade 6 learner will have some combination, not in this order necessarily, but these will be their general classes. Reading and writing are 2 separate kind of standalone classes in the core area, and then math and science. The math and science teacher in the 6th grade work very closely together. They do a lot of integrated projects and integrated units, so it's exciting because they're able to do on the fly, kind of using their math and science skills to build a sense of curiosity and design and things like that. Every learner will have social studies, which in 6th grade is really heavy in the geography, historical knowledge kind of realms, and weaving that in with some of the other things that they're doing in reading and writing class. Every 6th grade learner has a 42-minute support period, which is where they can work on homework. If they're falling behind in a class, they can go see that teacher and get some extra help, things like that. Then throughout the course of the year, the first half of the year they might have music and art, and the second half they would have STEM, or maybe they have STEM the first half of the year, and the second half it's music and art. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math, and it's a fully kind of integrated class that happens either in this STEM room or one upstairs. Very hands-on, kids usually love that class. And then every learner has a wellness class all year long, which is mostly physical education, but we do weave in some health learning goals as well. In the middle school, every class starts off by identifying the goal for learning. What's the purpose of whatever it is we're doing? That learning goal breaks into 2 areas. What are the skills? So if this is a learning goal about writing, what writing skill are we working on? And what vocabulary or other knowledge do they need to kind of master that skill? And then teachers will do lots of practice, and the language we'll start to hear in the middle school is formative or formative task or formatives. These are practice types of things to help the teacher understand what to do next with instruction. And they'll do the same thing over here, practice and formative tasks. And when they believe that their class is ready, they'll go to that last summative, which is when they kind of capture the learning, and this is when they would then have a grade and conversations about how to fix the grade if that's necessary, or pats on the back and moving forward, all that kind of stuff. But that's called a summative assessment. So we start over here, we start with the end point, what's the goal, we break it down, and then we do lots of practice and eventually get to the place of assessing and seeing where learners are ready to move on. Again, we'll get much deeper into this in a future session. Grades in the middle school always revolve around the learning goal. So when you look at Otis, which is where all of our grades get stored, you'll see under each class a list of learning goals. Formative tasks orbit in this way, but don't quite touch the summatives because you'll only ever see these as feedback. We don't count these as part of the grade. Again, with that growth mindset piece, the emphasis is if we're practicing something, we want you to have feedback before we count it against you, type of a thing. And then the grade itself is made up of this summative task here. We also begin to really evaluate, support, instruct on habits of work. Sometimes you call these soft skills, which are just as important as any academic skills we might be teaching learners as well. If our learners are really, really good at math, but they have no ability to be independent, they're going to struggle in whatever comes next. If our learners think it's okay to blow things off and miss every single deadline, even though they might get A's on every single assignment, they're still not ready for what comes next as an adult, and so on. So we count these as just as important as academic skills. We spend a lot of time talking about these in our classrooms, and every learner will receive a score so you can kind of see from their teachers what the feedback is as they progress on these towards high school and beyond. And of course, we offer a lot of support options. There's that support period. This can be used for learners to get ahead if they're already in really good shape, or if they need some extra help from a teacher. Again, during the school day, we bake that in for them. Our school counseling team is a wonderful resource, which Mrs. Baker will talk about in just a couple of minutes. And in the middle school, our teachers offer after-school help. If that's available for learners and they can stay, that's always another option we can arrange. So takeaways from this. Middle school expectations are definitely different from elementary school. We start to expect more independence over time, more transferring of skills from this thing that I did over here to this next thing happening over here. We know that our learners need to be pushed in middle school more than before. Their brains are the most stretchy in middle school, so the more we pack in academic-wise and support them getting there, the better off they'll be. We work to build independence over time. You will definitely have different teachers for each subject. That's a big change from elementary school. We want to emphasize again, work habits, really, really important, that we have abilities to help learners develop those, and we will offer tons of support, whatever we can do to help, especially with our middle school teachers that are very cohesive teams. We will do that as long as your child meets us halfway. Ms. Baker.
So I'm just going to touch briefly on the school counseling program
We have a comprehensive program, a comprehensive team, and then next week I'll talk more about what that looks like on a day-to-day basis for learners. But first I'll start by talking about our team, if you don't mind.
Oh, sorry. This is
Okay.
so improv.
So this is our team, and I really say team because although learners are assigned to a school counselor, when a school counselor needs support, when you need to talk to somebody, if the school counselor that your learner is assigned to is not available, somebody else will step in and pick up and help support your needs or the learner needs. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm the counseling director. Ms. Goss, who is somebody that you'll probably get to know really well, is the registrar. So she's the person that is often picking up the phone, answering your calls, getting you directed to whoever you need to talk to. So she'll be somebody that you'll work with throughout the time at middle school and then the transition to high school and all throughout high school. So she'll somebody you get to know. As a sixth grader, the school counselor that will be working most closely with you is Ashley Ben. So she's the school counselor for grades 6 and 7. And then we have 2 counselors that work with learners in grades 8 through 12, and you can see that that's an alphabetical breakdown. And then in addition to the traditional school counselors, we have Melissa Jarest, who's our school adjustment counselor, and Gretchen Boutivo, who's our 504 coordinator. So one of the reasons why we have a school counselor that works specifically with learners in grades 6 and 7 is because during that time frame, we know that it can be difficult for a learner to maybe come to us, to be searching us out for support, to figure out what they might need to be successful. So a lot of what Ashley Benz will be doing is pushing into the classroom. So learners will see her in their transition, their study block on a regular basis. She'll see them in their classrooms, visiting, checking in, working with them. She'll see them on the playground during recess. She'll see them during lunch, hanging out, checking in, kind of interacting. So she gets to know learners individually, but also in a group setting, and can work to support learners in the classroom and also outside of the classroom. So you'll see her, as you will see other school counselors, kind of all about. We don't sit in our offices all day long. It's really important that we're out and about, that all learners get to know who we are, so if they need support and help, they feel comfortable coming to us. And the same is true for you as parents and guardians. I often say that we sometimes can be the first place you go to. If you're not sure who to call, who to talk to, or what to do, just picking up the phone and calling the school counseling or calling the registrar and just saying, I'm not really sure who I need to talk to, but this is what I need, or this is what's going on, and then either we can help, or we certainly can direct you to people that can support you. So we're always available. You'll be working with somebody in the school counseling department for the whole 7 years that your learner's with us. So we want to get to know you. We want you to get to know us and all the supports that we can provide. You'll learn more about what it looks like as learners transition from 7th to 8th grade, kind of when you get to that point, and why we do things a little bit differently in those grades. But for right now, it's all about us getting to know your learner and you getting to know us. And the next slide just talks about some of the resources, some of the services. Academic support, connecting to resources. So if your learner is having a hard time with a particular subject area, we can help make that connection with the teacher, or how to use that transition block, or we have additional resources that can be available, and I'll mention some of those next week. So really kind of making sure students are finding success in the classroom with their academics. We also know that lots of things change over time in middle school. Right? You're meeting new people, your friend groups are changing. And sometimes there can be conflict or challenges, or that can be difficult. So we spend a lot of time helping students navigate those pieces. And that's the same thing with the social skills piece, right? Learning those pieces, making sure that they feel connected, that they have a friend group, that they have trusted adults in the building, and working on those. We're also here to support you. We know that this is a big transition from elementary to middle school. So we want you to know that we're a resource to you. So at any time, if you need supports or help or looking for some direction, we're more than happy to have that conversation with you. You can pick up the phone, send an email, meet with us in person. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. We definitely want to support you in the transition and your time here at our school. We also meet, we're part of in this case, the 6th grade team. So once a week, Ashley joins the 6th grade team just to talk about what they're seeing as a whole group? Are there things that we as a school counseling team can support? Like I'll use social media can be something, or digital literacy is something that we talk to learners about. So sometimes we'll do lessons and push into the classroom based on what the team is seeing and what learners need. And this is a good time for the counseling team to kind of know what's going on with the 6th grade group. And next week I'll talk and give you examples and talk more specifically about what that looks like. And then of course we're always kind of planning ahead, talking about future. And I know as 6th graders, that can be a little overwhelming, but it's kind of trying new things. What are you most interested in? What are you curious about? What do you want to learn? And helping students kind of step into that, even if they're feeling a little anxious, feeling a little unsure, kind of being comfortable with that and planning for their future. And then, I think I mentioned this, we are in the classrooms a lot, and that's our goal is we don't want learners always to feel like they have to come to us or find us. We'll push in and be in the classroom and be around and be available to learners. And I'll talk more about what that, I know that's quick and fast, but I'll talk more about what that really looks like on a day-to-day basis and overall for 6th grade next week. Thank you.
So there's a ton of opportunities that happen at the middle school that are, again, just different from elementary school because you're growing, getting access to more stuff. And I will say that our connection as a middle high school also gives us a lot of opportunity that we did not have when we were separate middle and high school completely. I did work on the high school side for a number of years, and it's kind of shocking sharing a campus and being this close how little we actually did anything together as the middle and high school prior to the last few years. So even being in 6th grade, there's things that you now have access to because we're Conant Middle High School that you wouldn't have necessarily had in the past. There's a ton of clubs. Some of them are exclusive middle school clubs. Some of them do have high school learners as well, but I'll let Ms. Lindstad talk about that in a minute. We have a student government in the middle school that does a lot of things to plan special middle school only events. We have middle school only dances. We don't have high school and middle school mixing at things like that. So the student government often plans several dances throughout the course of the year. We usually have almost the entire middle school show up. It's kind of crazy having 230 people here at 8 at night running around outside having a dance. But they're very popular, and the student government plans those. We do middle school spirit weeks and pep rallies, middle school assemblies, lots of really cool field trips. And again, our student government does a lot of the work to plan that, come up with the ideas, help to fundraise, things like that. And then of course we have athletics in the middle school, which are open to anybody. We do not cut learners in the middle school from any teams. That's not because we believe everybody gets a trophy or everybody gets a medal, but middle school is about developing skills. And this is oftentimes the first time that learners have access to free sports, free learning opportunities with sports, things like that. When we get to high school and we have varsity, absolutely there's cuts. It's a traditional varsity program, things like that. But our philosophy in middle school is everybody should be allowed to try, everybody should be allowed to grow. And I know Ms. Lindstad, when she talked, will talk more about that. So Ms. Lindstad, it's a great time for you to come on up. Yep. No, Ms. Lindstad snuck in after we started. So
Sorry, I
introduce
had
yourself.
open gym volleyball over at RMS because obviously we have a new floor at the Pratt. And when I talk about volleyball, there it is, it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for students. You know, our volleyball program got started because students were looking for something. We're trying to make it a boys' sport in the spring too, because now there's boys that are like, hey, I want to play this sport. So when we talk about clubs, activities, and those kind of things, some of the things that they get is really because they did volleyball at PE, right? And they start to enjoy it. So one of the things about middle school is we don't know what we want to play yet. You know, we don't know what we want to do. And that's one of the reasons why we don't have the cuts, because you know what though, in the fall this year, as a 6th grader, you might play soccer and then you might be like, ooh, I heard so many great things about cross country. And that's great too, but at least you're getting that experience in trying those things. The other thing about it, clubs and athletics, you can do anything. So you can build your schedule, the way the practices are, or if you want to stay after and do Dungeons and Dragons or animation, or I know there's a big influx, and I know it's not here on the next screen, but I know Destination Imagination has been huge at JGS and at RMS. We will have those programs, that's not a problem. There's so many teachers that are so well involved in making that happen. So, and that is another thing I will tell you, your students will enjoy sometimes just, they have that teacher for STEM maybe, and they're like, oh, what are you doing for clubs after? And or I say to the students, you want to start a club, go find that teacher that you love to talk to, and they'll become the advisor. So that's how those kind of things, we allow for student voice in that respect, right? Are there things that you want to do? So many of these clubs are just because of students wanting that. They find a group of friends, it's important for them. The whole value of staying after, meeting new friends and being around that is the social part of it too. So, but can they play soccer and be part of Dungeons and Dragons? Absolutely. The schedule works, make it work. As far as athletics, just so everybody knows, Principal Dustin was correct, there's no fees to it. You know, everybody gets their uniforms, we have the buses to take them to different schools. Most of our schools that we play are in the area, not too far away. And we have terrific coaches that will help in any way to support your students. So that's kind of where it's at.
I also want to emphasize that we don't allow things like equipment to be a barrier to access to things like this either. So if there's, some of these sports can be rather expensive to start up, and if you're not sure your child is really invested, you may not want to go and buy all the things that go with the sport. We will find ways to make sure that any child who wants to participate can have access to what they need in the middle school to do that.
So like right now we have, and we talk about a campus, we have, starting tomorrow, we have a field hockey clinic because the seniors, there's so many senior athletes and they want to give back and they want field hockey to stay popular at Conant, and so they're running a clinic for the next 3 Thursdays. They're going to bring extra sticks and stuff like that to make it happen. So this is all kind of that whole, you know, culture of what Conant is all about, right? And giving back. So we have the seniors and the whole varsity field hockey team wanting to run a clinic. And so everybody's invited. So same thing though. If they don't have a stick, we'll provide the stick. And anything that people want. And again, people say that sometimes that our numbers are large, and that's great. Because the more people participating, right, the more challenged each other is. They get to challenge each other and get better and grow together. So everything's better in numbers. That's how I feel about it. Anything else? For that, just so you know, I'm sorry, last thing. Family ID is open. So if your student wants to sign up now, go to familyid.com and just start registering. And the biggest key to that is, but you guys are 6th graders, you're already supposed to have your updated physical. So, so have that ready.
Yes, hopefully you got in the mail already your child's schedule, tentative schedule for the coming school year. We did include a letter and a little to-do list in there. The to-do list is, we're not going to check up on most of it. Some of it we will. You have to register for school, like we already checked up on that. And you do have to have a physical. But the other stuff's just reminders, things that families ask us a lot of times about. So if those went out, I believe 2 days ago. I don't know how the postal service is sometimes. Sometimes things arrive immediately. Sometimes it seems like weeks go by. But hopefully you'll get those in the near future if you haven't already gotten them. So you can also check out the website. I put a digital version up there. So all the links and the to-do list are live on the website. So more information on all these topics. Well, I shouldn't say that. On specific topics will be coming up. Navigating Middle School, which is next Wednesday, we're going to spend more time kind of looking at the school counseling resources, how to kind of recognize the difference between a peer conflict and how we can resolve that versus bullying, which a lot of times in middle school, that word starts to get used more often. We investigate all of them, but sometimes it's helpful to know, okay, this doesn't sound like bullying, this sounds like a conflict, let's figure out how to resolve this. So there'll be information on how to recognize and work through those pieces, as well as some information about any kind of behavior processes and what our focus is for that in middle school, so we can again stay partners with families. On the 7th, we'll dig much deeper into the academic sort of equation. We've seen a ton of growth in our middle school the last few years. Our standardized assessments, which are one measure, but an important one, continue to move in the right direction, which is up, while we're seeing trends the other direction happening around the state. But that's because of the investment of our teachers and how hard we're trying to partner with families to keep that rigor growing and keep our learners learning. So we'll spend a lot more time on the 7th showing you examples of what a learning goal looks like. So as a parent, you kind of know what learners are expected to do and how to recognize what the language means. We'll show you examples of report cards, what you can kind of understand and pull off of that. We'll walk you through things like accessing Otis, all those things that can help parents kind of stay up on the academic side, as well as some of the other opportunities getting deeper into sports, athletics, activities, and student services support as well. And then, of course, we have our barbecue that same week, the 9th, I believe. I won't question it because we have the high school thing. Yes, the 9th is the barbecue. And that's, again, emphasis on that is families and community just coming together. We won't say anything at that barbecue as administrators. We'll just cook the food and stay out of the way. And it's a chance for you to mingle with other 6th grade families, mingle with the teachers. Hopefully more of the building will be accessible then, so we often have our tours during that time. So that's just kind of a nice couple weeks before school getting ready to be here. We are happy to give tours by appointment. It has to be by appointment because you may want to come in for a tour and they may be welding something and have half the ceiling down someplace. So we want to make sure if you come in for a tour that we can actually walk you around most of the building. And of course our website is another great resource for information. So that's it for our kind of presentation portion. We'll just open the floor up for any questions that families might have.
Okay, I'll be brave. I haven't done Alma yet.
Sure.
Is that an issue?
Nope.
Okay.
There should be information going out. I know one round went out, but it might have been to only high school families. So I know Leslie McLean is going to keep sending that information out. And I am also putting together a website for our website that will walk families through that, and I'll email that out through Alma to folks. So there'll be lots of opportunities to get in there.
Okay.
It's a great question.
And if you go to the SAU 47 website, right on the front page on the right-hand side is a link and
Yep.
some information too, so you can do it there.
It works very similarly to the re-registration process with Web to School that we used the last couple of years. It's just a more modern platform, so there's definitely some differences to it.
And what about, you're behind me, I should have raised what about Otis? I'm not sure that I've received any information
Yep.
about how to access that.
So the Otis piece has to unfortunately wait until your learner comes to school the first couple of days. So the reason for that is all the information from Alma has to transfer into Otis, and then it generates a unique code for just your child, which will go home for you. And you can create an Otis account anytime. There's information on our website on how to do that. But what you won't be able to do is link any children to your account. You'll just have a blank, empty Otis account until you get that unique code for your child. So the first couple, there's already information on the website, but the first couple of weeks of school, I always send home information. Then Ms. Oshiak will usually send home information. We offer a couple of family nights, usually the first couple weeks of September, where we just open our computer lab and make ourselves available. So we'll do a lot of that again to help families get on board with that. But that's probably closer to like a mid-September. You'll probably be in there comfortable, kind of ready to go. It's a great question. And once you've done the code, once, you're good forever. So 7th grade, you won't have to do the code again. It'll all automatically be there. You'll be able to sign in 8th grade straight up through the end of time. So this is like a one-time kind of delay for our 6th grade families.
With all the activities after school, the sports and clubs, is there like a late bus? Or does everything have to be parent pickup?
Currently, everything is parent pickup. We are desperately trying to get a late bus to come through. We've had limited success in the past sending a late bus, but it was only able to drop off in one location in Ringe and one location in Jaffrey. So we're exploring several options, but it's our goal to get a late bus as much for academic help that a lot of learners might need after school as for clubs and activities, because it's really, really tough, as you just mentioned, when it's
Just trying to
only
juggle
parents.
everyone's schedules
Exactly.
and stuff, so
Exactly.
it's-
We are actively working on it.
We are actively working on it, but I think, again, just community support. Parents have done a great job, and, carpooling,
Yes, yeah.
we work on those kind of things. Certainly, when we do anything over at RMS, we put the kids on the bus. If they have to get from here to use the gym over at RMS, they get on the Ringe bus. So again, to answer that, if there's ever a question, please just reach out to me. If there's a reason why you need help for your student to be a part of something, we'll do the homework and we'll make certain things work, okay?
We're always looking for possible van rental. Last year, we borrowed the Jaffrey Rec bus for
Yep.
several months, so we're looking for other options currently. But as a side to that, if anybody knows of a small bus that's for rent or sale, well, truly, the district is looking, so. Any other questions? Sometimes the question about supplies comes up. Anything that we need, because in the middle school we do most stuff in Otis and in our classrooms and things like that, every learner will have a Chromebook they take home. We don't do a lot of other supplies, but anything that might be needed, we supply in school. So we don't send home the go to Walmart and spend a couple $100 list. We take care of that. You're already paying taxes to be here. We figure it out. So don't worry about that. The only thing we recommend is a water bottle and obviously backpack, things like that. The stuff you'd want your child to have at school. But pencils, paper, notebooks, anything that we need like that, we just provide here. We try to minimize that.
I have two questions.
Sure.
So the buses, do they arrive in enough time for the children to be able to get breakfast?
Yes, the buses, this actually is a great kind of different question that I'll answer first. Buses all go here, parents typically all go here. So if you're a drop-off kind of person and a pickup kind of person, you'll always go kind of where you came in tonight, but go all the way around. There's a loop out in front of the main entrance to the school, and you'll see parents kind of queuing in one of two lines there. That's always the parent pickup drop-off area. We never come in or out of the SAU doors except when there's construction. So usually we're over at the main entrance. The buses are all up here. And they arrive usually 7:05 or so. They're all queued up out here and ready to go. And as soon as 7:10 hits, off they go, and then they go for breakfast. So very rarely is there a bus that's here past like 7:12.
And my second question is regarding the school bucks account.
Mhm.
Will any remaining funds transfer over to the school, or is there something that we have to do on our end?
I believe they'll transfer over, but we're switching food service companies this summer, so I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like. But you should get information. That'll come out of the business office end, but you should get information on that. Typically, it does transfer from 5th grade into 6th grade.
I assume the sixth graders get lockers. Do we have to provide a lock, or are the locks on the lockers?
The locks are already on the lockers, and we don't require 6th graders to sign out lockers at this point, but I encourage it because there's usually jackets and boots and things like that. And if they want a locker, their teacher will just arrange for the code and all that for them.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so it's all provided.
I feel like this is a silly question, but snacks, are they allowed?
Not a silly question, and yes,
Good question.
Okay.
it's a great question. Yeah, we're dealing with, we used to in both the middle and high school have very strict policies about that, a dozen years ago. It was no food in class. But we're also dealing with preteens and teenagers whose bodies are rapidly changing and growing. And we've since ditched that in the last several years. As long as it's respectful and tasteful, snacks are allowed. And what I mean by that is we've had some learners come in with giant bags of candy that they want to pass around the class. Obviously, we can't have that going on. That's disruptive. But coming in with a snack, your own candy to eat, whatever, we encourage healthy snacks. We don't police people's backpacks with that, though. But we do expect snacks to be non-disruptive and consumed at appropriate times. Obviously, if we're about to do a lab in science class and there's chemicals, that would not be a good time. But we go over all that stuff with the learners and make sure they're clear. It's a great question. Definitely send snacks. We encourage that. Your kids get hungry.
Please no energy drinks.
I was just gonna say.
Yes, energy drinks
I
are
was gonna say that.
another one. Yes.
No energy drinks.
My favorite was the 5 monsters in a backpack this year. And I was like, no, you're going to be off the wall. So again,
Really?
help us out a little bit with that stuff.
Take that.
Learning fast.
Yeah, that would be.
Do you get to choose, so like for lockers and your lock, do you get to choose your combination, or does your teacher give you?
It's a great question. The locks are all already preset, so you'll just get a combination that's already kind of locked in there, for lack of a better term. Great question.
Do we request that through the office, the locker?
Your child's mentoring teacher, the first couple of days, they'll go through all that stuff and they'll talk to learners and get all that information. Yep.
And we'll help you with it too.
Yes,
There's
it takes
a lot of
learning.
adults that, will help you out, so. Don't worry. We've got really good
I bet
help.
every one of the adults in the room has dealt with that, yeah. How many times right? How many times
Yeah.
left?
Gonna spin it past 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Past
To the
2,
right, not the
spin
left.
2.
We're dating ourselves.
Oh no, they're still the same kind. It's still the same struggle. That's why we spend a couple days on it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we have to wear uniforms?
We have a dress code, but the dress code emphasizes workplace appropriate, and we do a lot of conversations around what that means. Again, we view our job as training all these future citizens to kind of be ready to go out into the world and know that you don't show up to work wearing things that would not be appropriate. Let's just put it that way. But so we ask that you wear appropriate things, are covered adequately, but we don't otherwise have a uniform.
And do we have all the specials in one day, or are they all just broken up?
So you'll have, every single day you'll have PE and health, which is we call wellness, it kind of combine together. So that's every day, all year. Very important in 6th grade because you need to be running around and getting some of that energy out. You'll have, for another sort of specials period, you'll have one half of the year music and art, and the second half of the year you'll have STEM. So you could end up with STEM in the fall and winter, and music and art in the spring and early summer, or it could be the other way around. That make sense? Great question.
I had seen when we signed up for the kids doing the summer program, there was a sign up for band.
Mhm.
And how does band fit into that? Because I think it mentioned the STEM program. Do the kids do band instead of STEM?
So, why don't you answer that one?
Yeah, so,
Because I would hate for kids to miss out on STEM.
So
Yes.
for learners that are taking band and chorus in grade 6, their STEM activities will happen during mentoring time
Okay.
throughout the year. So instead of going every day for a semester, 1 or 2 days a week throughout the year, they'll have the opportunity to participate in STEM activities. They won't do the traditional music and art because the band and the chorus is their music and their exposure to that. But yes, we will get the STEM activities, just in a different way.
Okay.
The teachers have chunked it out so they can basically do mini versions of all the lessons and cover all the same goals. And then once they hit 7th grade, they'll do the same design and modeling STEM, they'll have all the same STEM access as everybody else. It's always, 6th grade's always tough with band and chorus, but we are committed to full year band and full year chorus.
Well, it was the sign up, I didn't want to sign her up until I
Yes.
figured out the wording of what was happening.
Yes. So if you haven't signed up for band and chorus and you're interested in doing that, you can still sign up on the sheet, or you can send me an email at k.baker@sa47, sorry, my brain, we're working on schedules for,
I know,
whatever. So k.baker@sau47.org, or fill out the sheet. But that would mean that the schedule you got, that you might receive in the mail, will change, and that's okay, I can send you a new schedule. Yeah, so, no, it's
No,
okay.
it's totally fine.
That's fine.
I would love our 6th grade band and chorus to be as large as they possibly can be, not because I think every learner will stick with it forever, but if we start out with this many kids who are interested and then they decide they're really not, then we'll end up with this many who really stick it out, versus if we start here, we may whittle down. And some learners find out in 6th grade because it's the first time they can take it all year, it's the first time they get instruments provided for them. Some learners really find a passion for that they never knew they had, and I would rather never miss a kid who might love that type of experience.
Yeah,
So
if it's-
don't apologize, sign your kids up. If you walk out of here and want to do band, do it.
Or
We'll
in
help you do it.
August and you said, oh, I forgot to do that,
Yep.
still reach out. We will make those changes and those adjustments to the schedule anytime, or if you see something on the schedule that you receive and you have questions about it, you're not sure what it means, please reach out. We want to help support you in that. I know it looks a little different, it can be a little confusing, so don't hesitate to reach out.
If they decide not to do band or chorus in 6th grade, can they do it in 7th grade, or are they
Yes.
locked out of that once they say no? They could do it, they could add it on.
We have-
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have learners that are coming into high school, freshman, sophomore year, and decide, maybe they've done music on their own, or maybe they want to explore, and they jump in, and that's fine too, we support that.
Absolutely. Any other questions? These have been great questions. We have new school stores opening up pretty soon, so you can get swag with the new logo if you want to start off the school year.
I do have a question.
Sure.
The wellness, who teaches that? Is that like a group of teachers that does that, or an individual?
It's one individual teacher who just does 6th and 7th grade, and we're still in the process of hiring that person. Our previous one moved to Connecticut, which was very sad. But it's typically somebody who's certified in PE with some experience in health, and then we integrate some of those health pieces in. The health emphasis in middle school really happens in 8th grade, but 6th grade tends to be body hygiene conversations that happen kind of woven in with some of the PE learning goals. There's a sexual reproduction and health unit midway through the year that happens, stuff like that, but it's much smaller than in 8th grade, which is the much more intense kind of traditional health program that all the 8th graders go through.
Since they have PE every day, do they have to come dressed in PE clothes every day, or do they have the opportunity to change into PE clothes and then change
Yep.
into JC clothes?
They definitely have the opportunity to change. Most middle schoolers we find don't change, and they just kind of wear the same clothes, which is, we wish they would change, but But yes, there's time that they can do that. The biggest thing, and the thing we'll emphasize, is the appropriate footwear for PE, especially when we're in the gym. The floor just got completely redone in there, and if we have non-appropriate shoes, like boots or clogs or things like that, that damage the floor, we have a bin of older shoes that we'll loan to people, and we don't like to do that because they're not the best, but sneakers or some sort of appropriate footwear, that's the biggest piece, and then definitely clothes to change into if you can.
Deodorant.
Yes.
Do you guys allow flip-flops in the school? Do they have to, okay. I know the elementary school, they had to have backs on their sandals and it was, yeah.
Only if we're doing runaround types of activities, but otherwise general school day flip-flops are A-okay. Gum is okay during the school day. I know that's a big change too. As soon as I start seeing it stuck on things, that might change the conversation, but we've been very good the last couple of years. We've made it through all year with very minimal gum sticking. So, that's always, a lot of sixth graders get very excited about that. I can chew gum now.
He's excited about being able to wear a hat.
Yep, hats are fine, yep, yep.
And also the elementary school, sorry for all my questions. They use the PUP app for like, is that something that's
Yes.
utilized in the middle
Yep.
school too?
Yep. The Pickup Patrol app is something we use, yep, same, if you've been familiar with that in elementary, same exact process, you sign in. If there's any change to the normal kind of deal for the day, you log it in there and that notifies the office.
So I have kids in the elementary school too, will I need to have like two separate?
I'm gonna ask you, Miss Latham, because you had
It's the same, it's the same one for both kids.
Okay. I'm gonna look to you because I know you have
Yeah, I did.
employee and parent access.
So we won't have to like make a new account, just what, it'll transfer right over.
Right, yeah, well, when I had a middle schooler and an elementary schooler, they were both in the same account.
Okay, great.
And with grades, in the elementary school, it was like 1, 2, 3, and
Mhm.
4. Is it the same for middle
Yep.
school too? Okay.
Yep. We do have honor roll and high honor roll in middle school if you're interested. We'll talk about that more next week, but that emphasizes 3 factors, so it is not just a grade-based kind of decider, because again, we believe soft skills and habits of work are just as important to show growth and development in as academic skill and knowledge. And we believe being in school and being here when you can be here is really important. So it weaves in some attendance criteria. If somebody's missing school all the time without a valid reason, that will impact that. Grades obviously count, and then the work habit scores. So you can find information on that, or we'll talk about it more next time. But
What's the level of homework assigned in middle school?
it varies. The 6th grade is usually pretty low because they have that built-in transition period that's like a study hall, but with 4 teachers. So typically whatever they need to work on, they get done within that time frame. But if there's bigger projects, we're closer to assessment, you might see some stuff coming home. And the 6th grade teachers are usually really good at kind of sending information if that's starting to happen, things like that.
And they'll send it directly to us as
Correct.
parents?
Yep.
Will it be the same during snow remote days? Are we
Yes.
continuing that?
The nice thing about middle school is they always have their Chromebooks, so it's less of a scramble kind of reminding people what to do.
Okay.
We're always in Otis. The 6th graders, by the time we get to winter, they'll be used to looking there anyways. So it does make it easier in that way. You'll probably find that you don't have to reteach your child how to kind of get into Google or whatever they're working in because they're just going to know how to do that. But we do the same process.
The 6th grade use, I know, I'm aging myself, do they have textbooks anymore, or is everything like, okay?
You're not aging yourself. Some classrooms use them in the classroom. They don't typically go
Like
home.
bring them home?
Correct. It's very, once in a great while, there might be a project where they send some books home, but like I know our social studies teacher uses them sometimes, but in the classroom for retrieval tasks.
Okay.
And the science teacher, same thing. So they don't typically make their way home anymore.
Okay.
They get to high school.
They're also not on screens all day, if that's also
Yes.
kind of where that question's going. Like, everybody here is very mindful
Yes.
actually of not having the kids. There's a place for technology, and I think our staff is really good about understanding that
Absolutely.
balance about when there's a place for technology and when we want kids to be doing paper and pencil and working with manipulatives and things like that.
Absolutely. And we emphasize, especially in 6th grade, but continuing to emphasize a lot of group work as well. It's that kind of building up that collaborative skill set. It's a great point.
So at this point, are the kids, how are they put into the different groups? Are they put into groups based on their skills coming into middle schools,
Mhm.
or, yeah, coming from the elementary school into middle school? Would they be grouped with like peers, or is it a mix of a group of kids?
Complete mix.
Okay.
The school counselors met with elementary school folks, just if there's any specific, like this person and this person can never be in the same room, we always get that information. But sixth grade is also an important reset time. There's new groups of kids coming in. So a lot of times, even if there's, this group 4 years ago had an issue, so don't keep them together. A lot of times they do okay in middle school, and we purposefully kind of set up environments where they can try again. So it's completely random, with the exception of any really dramatic needs that we're made aware of prior to them coming in. And of course, we can shift things because sixth grade is much closer. So if we start to see issues popping up, if there's a really clear need, if student services gets involved and we have to do some shifting that way, we can make any adjustments with sixth grade to make things work. But we want to start everybody as close to a clean slate as possible and make sure that everyone kind of has access to come on in.
So academically too?
Yep.
Kids are just all.
Yep. You start to see some shifting when you get into 7th and especially 8th grade. 7th graders who show aptitude in math, for example, they might be placed in Algebra 1 honors in 7th grade, which is a high school class, if they've demonstrated that that's where they should be. So that starts to create a little bit of separation. 8th grade, you'll have some learners going into geometry, some might do high school in this class. So you start to see a little bit more of that, but 6th grade, it's really about coming together and building up that class-wide kind of community. It's a great question. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming and having such wonderful questions. This will be posted, I'm recording it, so it's available on the website. So if there's anything from tonight that you didn't quite catch and you want to go back and see, we'll make this recording available. And I'll also send this brief slideshow out to all of the incoming 6th grade families. So any links that were in there, any contact, you'll have access to all of that as well. Don't hesitate to call, send an email if you have other questions that come up after tonight. If you're just curious about something as we get closer to school, if you want to meet with us to discuss something, we're here. We work all summer long. We're available. So just reach out if you have anything between now and the start of school, and hopefully we'll see most folks back again next week.